welcome to the next episode of Unstoppable Equestrian. I'm Danielle Pools from Dressage Plus, and today I want to talk to you about centre lines and so it doesn't matter if you are out competing all the time or if you're maybe not into competing, that's fine. I want to kind of firstly talk about centre lines and how good they are to practice at home so that you are continually working towards riding a straight and an accurate centre line for your competition riding. Or if you're not a competitor, then just how good they are for your training as well in your dressage work at home. So we can sometimes get stuck in riding circles and circles and sticking to the wall and just doing the same thing over and over. And we can sometimes forget to use the centre line and the 3/4 lines and things like this. So just want to, I suppose, remind you that your centre line's here. I've got a nice raked arena here, so you can't actually see any centre line really. But the centre line's there to use and to practice on. And whether it's trotting down the centre line, walking, or if your horse and you are up to it, cantering down the centre line, really good tool to use in your training. And it firstly checks in to see if your horse is holding a straight line and whether it's holding the line off a light aid or whether you have to be a little bit more physical to hold it there, and just training that to become a little bit more lighter so the horse is moving off a smaller aid to hold the straightness, and also just how straight your horse is through its body. So is it dropping a shoulder or is it continually holding its hind quarter to one way more than the other? So it gives you a really good indication on how straight your horse is through its body. Another great, or I suppose a tool if you're riding by yourself and you don't have someone telling you it's straight or not, is to, if you can, rake your arena like this one. Start your ride with a nice fresh arena so you can ride a few centre lines and come back to A or C and halt and look and see how straight you're actually riding, because sometimes it can feel straight and when you look at the tracks on the ground you realise it's not as straight as you thought. So that's a good tool or a good tip to use if you can rake your arena. So I want you to also think about riding your transitions and practicing your transitions on your centre line. Some horses, sometimes if they're out competing a lot, they can start to anticipate the halt at X or G. So if that's the case, make sure you do your transitions in different spots on the arena. And another little tip is to ride your centre lines backwards. So ride them from C to A rather than A to C. So you mixing it all up, your horse isn't too sure where it's going to halt, so it's going to wait for your aid. It's not going to anticipate as easily. So really adding in halts just as you come around the corner, or not halting sometimes, cantering in and adding in a walk transition or a trot transition and changing canter lead, and just really focusing on how much of the straightness you can maintain through the centre line. And when you're riding your transitions, if you're riding halt transitions, making sure that your horse is pushing up to the contact and moving forward into that halt rather than stepping backwards into the halt. So if your horse is on a contact and working correctly, then when you come around the corner and onto your centre line and halt at, let's say, X, you don't want the horse to halt and then step back into a square halt. You want to train your horse to halt and be moving forward into a square halt, hopefully square. But as soon as your horse halts and steps backwards, it's coming up off the contact. It's either sucking back or coming off that contact and won't be correctly pushed up to the contact. So when you then ask your horse to move forward into trot or move off the aid into walk or trot, your horse is already off the contact, so it's not going to step up correctly. It's going to probably pull from its front legs rather than step up from its hind legs and move forward into the upwards transition. So a really important thing to start noticing when you halt on your centre lines, is your horse halting and taking a forward step into halt, or is your horse halting and stepping backwards? Because if it's stepping backwards, it's coming off the contact. So being really aware of what's happening in your halts and then, yeah, I suppose fixing it. If the horse is stepping back each halt, riding it forward, asking it to take one or two more steps in walk and hugging it with your legs and encouraging it to push forward up to the contact and maintain the contact all the way into halt. So have fun practicing those, guys. Centre lines are a lot of fun to ride and really good to just practice if you are out competing a lot and maybe you get nerves out at competitions. Just every time you ride a centre line, practice big release and softening your elbows and your shoulders, taking a breath as you turn onto the centre line. So you're practicing in that relaxation before a test. So it starts to become really second nature to relax as you turn onto a centre line. So have fun with that, guys, and if you don't ride center lines often, guess what you're going to be doing in your next ride. So enjoy, and I will see you next week. Bye.